Did we?
We're here. And we're
There we are.
live.
Woo.
Hooray.
Hello.
We survived the gauntlet.
Yes.
We made it through the pre-show.
The most dangerous of all.
Oh, yes, exactly. Well then, welcome, Justin. And
welcome, Jena.
Welcome. And of course, the lovely new special guest tonight, the Irish, formerly known as Swede, Irish Swede.
Hello.
Hello. So,
Greetings from Omaha, Nebraska.
Awesome, which is confusing because of the name. Anyways, do you go by Irish or do you go by Swede?
I go by whatever people decide to call me.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm glad that I can finally have you here with us. Justin is so excited to talk about math, but we're not going to talk about that yet right now. Okay, because Justin's all about that math, right, Justin?
I feel like you're using people. You're like, hey, you're good at math. Come talk about that all day.
Well, what else are we going to talk about? Rap music?
Well,
No.
we know the common phrase, math, not even once.
Okay, well then. I don't get it. Anyways, Swede. How are you today? I don't want to start off with
fabulous. I am great.
question.
It's a great day to be alive.
It is great to be alive. And
it's snowing here, so it's terrible.
It has already snowed here. We had like 20-something inches of snow. My entire backyard is just buried. It's just gone. It's a white wonderland.
That was our last weekend. We got 18 here.
Nice.
God.
And Jenna's just like, what is snow? Like, what is this snow you're talking about?
For real, what is snow? What is rain? Because I barely get that shit too.
That's it. We'll melt our snow and send it to you post haste.
That's not fun. Let's say hi to the chat. Let's see. I don't like this guy. He should be banned.
Yep.
Let's see. God damn it.
Is that Russ?
I feel like it is Russ, or at least Tons of Mice, because Tons of Mice is here. Hi, Tons of Mice. He does live to talk about math.
I do not. That's the thing.
Roland Storm, of course, per usual. Thank you for joining. Ollie Man, our fan favorite. Thank you for joining. What's up? Before I get into it, Justin, what are you drinking?
Water, like a responsible adult, aka very boring.
Russ Burton, what are you drinking? Water as well. Okay.
This is going to be terrible.
What are you drinking?
Major Melon, Mountain Dew.
You need to stop drinking that. You have a condition.
I like what my condition is in.
Apparently. I'm drinking.
What if the medicine is to drink that? How do you know? Are you a doctor, Jenna?
Yeah.
Smart ass. No. I am a nurse. Thank you very much. I know.
Not a doctor.
She prevents doctors from killing people.
He asked a very specific question, all right?
He did.
And you did not answer it.
I did not. No. Thank you. A true responsible adult drinking bourbon. I'm assuming you're an adult. And I'm drinking apple juice out of a wine glass. So sweet.
I thought that was called cider.
Well, it really is apple juice. It's not cider. It's legit apple juice. I have the bottle right here. Okay. All right. Sweet. So, as I do know, but maybe Justin and Russ Burton and maybe some in the chat are unfamiliar with, you have Marfan syndrome.
Yes. As Tons of Mice would tell you. Did you know I had Marfan's?
You know, that's the running joke, because now that when you introduce yourself, I know commonly you're on Neil's stream or wherever there is a stream, you're like, my name is Swede and I have Marfan's, like AA. Yep. And it fits. It works.
Yep. My only personality trait is a genetic disorder that I have.
And math.
And math.
And a propensity to know how to do statistical analysis. That's it. which is not math.
I mean, fair enough. But I mean, it could be math. It's just as complicated. But well, I know this has been like a recent journey for you with Marfan syndrome, or at least a fairly recent diagnosis.
Been a
And
recent
dealing with it.
diagnosis, yeah.
Yeah. So start us off. Explain what Marfan's is. How did you discover you had it? Why are you here?
So Marfan's is a genetic disorder, very specifically in your FBN1 gene, which is responsible for the production of a protein called fibrilin, which is what combined with elastin is what makes your connective tissues elastic and be able to stretch and go back to normal proportions. And connective tissues are obviously used throughout your entire body, and it affects your body's growth patterns across your entire body. So you'll have, typically people are very tall. I'm 6'5". You know, my parents are only 5'10" each. My sister is 5'4". So I'm kind of an oddball out. However, at the beginning, it didn't really seem like much because my wife's brothers were very tall. Now, this happens to be a genetic disorder from my mom's side. So we're in the process of doing genetic testing across her side of the family to see what's going on there. And obviously my sister and her kids and my kids have gone through this. So, and my dad's side, my dad's brother is 6 foot. So everybody kind of thought, well, 6'5", that's not that out of the realm of, you know, what you would normally consider norm. But if you see somebody, you know, with parents that are 5'8" and, you know, a couple siblings that are around 5'8" and they're 6'7", and very lanky, it's a high probability that it's some variation of one of the 27 genes that controls your connective tissue, either production or the proteins surrounding their maintenance during, you know, through reconstruction or healing or whatnot. This can manifest itself in a whole myriad of ways with different connective tissues. So like mine, I have a shorter wingspan and smaller hands than normal. However, my torso and everything else is very tall. So you can imagine how growing up and going through growth spurts, that creates some pretty significant problems with pain, physical activity. Marfan's is very common with lower back pain, severe lower back pain. Some people have it just absolutely debilitating, cannot function without having a surgery to correct what's going on with that. What happened with me was it really affected my aorta, and I had an aortic aneurysm that went undetected for a couple decades and eventually burst, and I suffered what's called an aortic dissection and nearly died last May.
Wow.
I was fully ruptured. It went through all 3 layers and was in the process of bleeding out right when they got me to the OR. So yeah, that's, you know, kind of one of those fun trips. And that's actually, you know, when I was 19, they had tested me for it because obviously they were like, well, he's tall and lanky, so let's just see if it's there. But they didn't do the actual genetic testing, and the reason is back then genetic testing was $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and insurance wasn't really interested in paying for it. And if your family wasn't of high means, that meant it would go undiagnosed. So nowadays, testing is mostly covered by a couple foundations and insurance, as long as it's not what the insurance companies will call a fishing expedition, meaning you don't really have any traits. You're just kind of going out to see if there's anything there.
So given that this is such a rare type of condition,
it's 1 in 5 to 10,000 is kind of the how many people have it. So it's 35 to 70,000 people in the United States would have it.
So no portion of screening, no portion of like at birth testing, anything is covered.
Wasn't when I was 19. So that's 21 years ago.
But now it's different.
And now it's becoming much more prevalent and easy. For those that don't know who John Ritter is, he was a very famous actor. For those of us that are 40 and older would know him from like Three's Company and 8 Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, which was a series that was quite a while. That was more than 10 years ago too, but he died from aortic dissection. So he has a foundation for aortic health. So if you suffer from some aortic disease, they go in and help cover the costs of the genetic testing. And then the Marfan Institute will also help. And then insurance companies have, due to the technology and everything else, and the testing getting a lot cheaper, they've started to cover quite a bit of it. So there's a reason Marfan's people went from having a life expectancy of 30 to 80
Oh wow.
for the last 20 years. And it's basic testing and coverage within the medical community for the people who have quite a bit less means.
Yeah.
At most, out of pocket right now, it's $250, which the Ritter Foundation will come in and cover. If you can apply to have it covered through them due to financial hardship.
For the most part, you can live a fairly normal life, quote unquote.
Yeah, so one of my sons I passed the defect onto, and we've had a lot of conversations with the cardiologists and the genetic team, in that everything is basically going to be normal for him until high school, when contact sports become out the door. So football, basketball will likely, and then anything that would require any sort of lifting more than however many pounds they tell him at the time, because that, when you do weightlifting or things like that, that puts a tremendous amount of instant pressure upon your blood vessels. So your blood pressure spikes. If you're normally at 110/70 and you go in and you do squats, your blood pressure will instantly go to like 180/110. And if you have a picture of a heart, and out the top is where your aorta comes out and then bends around and then goes down. Now you can imagine that's where all the pressure that your heart is creating that's the very first place that it hits. And that's why aortic dissections happen. And so you're creating an environment in which you're increasing the chances, however many fold, of something like that happening. My oldest son did not get the genetic defect. So it's pretty much sure that he'll live fully. Whether my wife lets him do contact sports is a whole different issue.
So for you, as far as management, obviously I'm assuming you had those same restrictions as far as exercise, weightlifting, and all that. But on top of that, since you need to obviously manage your blood pressure, I'm certain you're on certain blood pressure medications. Like
I'm on 5 different medications to stay alive. So with a mechanical valve, so they had to replace my aortic valve. I have to be on warfarin for the rest of my life, or Coumadin, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, what to call it. And then I have to take some blood pressure medication. I have to also do an aspirin regimen, and then a few other medications that I have no idea what they do, but I just know I have to take them. So I have to regulate blood, with anything mechanical, you have to do blood thinners.
Yeah.
And then do some major management with your blood pressure, because they want your blood pressure to almost always be, unless you're exercising, be below 120/70.
So I know, as far as follow-ups and stuff, I know obviously with Coumadin, you need to go to the lovely
get your finger pricked every month.
Every month. That good old INR checked.
Yep.
But as apart from blood work, do you have to always be have like monthly follow-ups with your provider?
So
scans,
my child and I will have annual CTs to check his aneurysm and whether or not my repair is still holding. And then the rest of my family doesn't. And then we also have to see a specialist for some ocular issues that can happen with Marfan's, because the connective tissue that holds your lens in place can fail. So you can be sitting there one day and you blink and your lens falls out of your eye.
I think you had said one time that you were blind.
Yeah, so one of the Marfan's that's very rare to happen is you get a condition called AMPI, which is acute posterior multifocal placoid pigment epitheliopathy, which is a very fancy way of saying your blood vessels in your retina swell.
Mm.
And those are connective tissues as well. So this is a connective tissue issue. And so my entire center ocular range, so like right about here, was just gray. And then I had all my peripheral vision, but none of this. And then back, when it receded, I ended up with scar tissue on my retinas and have some spots that are just missing and will be for the rest of my life. But I have most of my vision back on that front. So yeah, your ocular health is a big one, and then your lower back to make sure. And then I'll probably go in because there's certain times when I am just in such pain from my lower back that it may be a quick fix. I think it's an outpatient procedure to go in and fix what is going on with your lower back. But there's a couple specialists here in Omaha that are nationally recognized and have been published on this very specific disorder and the things that surround it. So I'm kind of lucky in that respect. The guy's dad who wrote the book on the AMPI issue his son is my optometrist. So, it's kind of weird that it all fell into place, coincidental to meet all this group of people. When that happened with my eyes, it was weird because I was sitting there, scared out of my wits as things were starting to disappear. And then when your optometrist walks in with a textbook to tell you what's going wrong, it's never good. Here's a textbook from my old day in school.
Yeah, I looked this up real quick.
But that's the big thing with most things considered with most connective tissues disorders is that you want to talk to somebody who doesn't go, yeah, I read about that in school. You want to talk to somebody who literally deals with it or specializes in it, because as much as I liked my cardiologist that I was assigned after, her knowledge base when it comes to these types of things was minimal. And she was having to call other people to tell her what, so being able to switch over to a different doctor and I go to a children's doctor now because this doctor basically is going to treat our entire family. The is it optometrist or ophthalmologist?
Ophthalmologist. Well, I mean, that's an eye surgeon, ophthalmologist.
Yeah, it would be that. Is going to basically act as our optometrist and ophthalmologist and handle all of our family, whether or not, since Anders doesn't need it, who's my oldest, still going to handle all the family and take care of our glasses and contacts and everything else. So it's nice to have the team that we have. I can imagine how hard this would be if, say, you were, in the middle of nowhere, northern Wyoming or something along those lines, where your ability to have good care is severely reduced.
Or coverage or money or any type of resource that could direct you to really get the help that you need or act on treatment.
If you want to know how much an aortic dissection repair costs, it's about $250,000.
I have that in my back pocket.
When that bill came in the mail of list of things, and that was 5 days inpatient, recovery and sent home. There are people that after surgery spend months in the hospital trying to recover. So you can imagine
just racking it up.
And they need it. They're from what I can read and from what other people have said, anecdotally, these people could barely get out of bed for 3 weeks based on how much repair needed to be done. Now, mine was incredibly severe, but I was a runner. I did half marathons. My body was in fairly good physical shape. In fact, the day that it happened, I had run my best 10K time ever. And so my body was able to handle this quite a bit more. You get somebody where Marfan's affects them much harder or more pervasive around their body, and then they have to go through this. It's going to be quite a bit more for them to recover. And that's where resources like the Marfan Foundation and the John Ritter Foundation and stuff like that
Mhm.
can help you find those doctors, because that's essentially one of the best things about the Marfan Foundation is their list of doctors, people who actually specialize
So you know
in
where to
this
go.
thing.
Yeah.
So you know where to go.
Yeah. And of course, everyone, I have all the links and information regarding Marfans and regarding John Ritter Foundation. I know not too long ago, like, was it before New Year's? After New Year's? On your channel,
It
which
was
by the
right
way,
before New Year's. Yeah, it was the
right before
Wednesday
New
before New
Year's.
Year's. Yep.
Yeah. You did a charity
I did
and
charity
raised
stream.
over $1,000
Yes.
within what, 8 hours?
Yep. We got $1,500, and I'm a small time streamer. I got 50 subs, and it's not like it's much, but we
Welcome
were
to the
able to
family.
we were able to raise $1,500, which I
That's a
think is
lot.
impressive with how beginner and like I have never streamed before in my life. I had only just started to produce YouTube content, I think about a month or two or 3 months ago, and that's it. And frankly, I considered it a hobby for me to be able to just rant about certain economic topics to get it off my chest and put it anonymously up on YouTube.
And rant you do. Especially this last one. You sounded a bit perturbed. Yeah, there you go. That is the actual word you use in your video too. I don't, it's funny because we did watch it. Yeah, we did watch it that night with Mikey, and then I had to rewatch and re-listen to it today while I was at work. I was like, okay, I gotta take notes. Key terms, short sale, blah
I
blah
did my
blah.
best not to talk. And when you really do know something, and this is where it comes in, you don't know you're using terms that other people don't readily know. And so I've had a lot of, I need to do another video where I back up and go, okay, here are some things,
Yeah.
here are some things that I glossed over that I don't, it's like
Mhm.
a nurse or anybody else that's experienced in their field. Some people are a lot better at it than I am. More
Oh
power to
no,
them.
I understand. I be explaining things with work or certain stuff I do or have experience with Justin when I use medical terminology, and then he tries to explain his technical stuff with work, and I'm just like, that's cool. Air gets cold. Okay. I don't know what the fuck you do. No. But no, I understand. Like it's good that, with your background, you understand the processes, albeit you did put out a disclaimer that you have a bit of a bias, you socialist bastard. But I was kidding. But y- I think you had said you had work experience through all this, or still currently do,
Yep.
and it's something you've done for a living and something you purposefully educate yourself on too.
Yep.
So I mean, we had a discussion last week, or at least tried to. We brought it up. We talked about it because it just had come out in the news. So our, I guess, basic understanding of what happened, I think Justin knows or is a bit more knowledgeable than I am. But I don't know if you want to dive on in, or if you guys have questions or anyone else has questions before we talk about something else.
I guess my qualifications would be I'm 18 years experience as an economist professionally. I graduated undergrad 18 years ago and have been doing this ever since. I have my master's in finance and econ and have participated in the SEC with rulemaking and with the CFTC as well in rulemaking for cryptocurrency. So I've been somewhat involved in policy, which has moved me to want to get my PhD, because that's kind of what you have to get into Washington, D.C. if you want to actually really affect policy positions and be an employee, policy employee of the regulatory institutions that we have, and having some insight into how rules are made is kind of cool too.
So you're not just another chucklehead on the internet just spouting off random nonsense. You actually know what you're talking about.
I try. Every once in a while there are areas that I don't know, and I will readily admit there are areas of this business that I don't know and don't understand. Like in economics, there are two basic sides, monetary and fiscal policy, and I concentrate on monetary policy and the fiscal policy side of how taxes. Like I I can muddle my way through how tax policy and everything will work, but monetary policy is much more my specialty and what I studied. And if I start talking fiscal policy, chances are that I'm probably only half correct or half explaining it correctly. And I readily admit that. I think it's good to admit where your shortcomings are. That way, people can go. Now I can point you who the good people are on that respect. But yeah, I think I would qualify as maybe just below an expert in the field.
I mean, that's better than me. I know that. I mean, I have follow-up questions. I don't even know.
However you want to do it. If you want me to just kind of go through the events, or if you want to start firing questions, or I think one of the questions is, how did we get Rami Malek up on the stage?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know.
He was always in Jena's basement, and he just let him out, and she finally let him out. This is what happens when you're down there for so long.
Wow.
I'll feed you a little more, I promise.
Thank you.
I'm not no, I am. Justin,
I'll be back next week to see if she's feeding you more.
By all means, please, because I forget shit.
They'll call the ASPCA on you, and I'll be in one of those like sad dog commercials.
For 10 cents a minute. You could.
Oh, that's a different 10 cents a minute. That's a different type of phone call.
Oh shit. Sorry.
Well, that was the old like AT&T call after
Justin
9 o'clock.
would know. He's the expert.
Try to call me out. Called himself out. I don't know, Justin. What's up?
Somebody wants to see your basement.
All
right, time to go on a house tour. Get up, Jena. Go. Show everyone.
Yeah, all we've seen is the corner of your bedroom.
Well, that's all you need to see. Okay.
I think Jena should do a cooking show and call it Only Pans.
And you know, it's funny. I do like to bake. I don't cook often or very little, but I do like to bake. I bake cakes and stuff, and I haven't done it in a couple months, but that's what I do like to do. That's a good thing.
I have appreciation for people understanding the difference between cooking and baking, because they're very different things.
I can't do it.
Because I can't bake.
I guess a rundown would be nice.
Yeah, so
by all means, hold on. Before you go there, by all means, people, I linked. I'm certain I linked the video of Swede's latest video discussing the whole to events of GameStop and Stop and all that stuff. Hi aesthetics.
Ooh,
but
I like
but
nachos.
Don't
get him started. Yeah.
Get him started, please. He's special. I believe I did link the direct video per this discussion. By all means, please watch it for yourselves. It's very detailed and it's good. He does get a little angry. So fair warning.
The last 20 minutes, if you want to hear me get mad, then
a white man getting angry is, very, very mild. So
it's like ranch dressing.
It was just slightly above a high-pitched Mitt Romney angry. I mean, you did curse.
Yeah, I did curse.
That's why it's slightly above a Mitt Romney.
Yeah. So
yeah, go for it.
So some shit posters on Reddit known as Wall Street Bets decided that they, there's a list that's posted through by Goldman Sachs of the 50 top 50 most shorted stocks out there. And exactly. Reddit is known as the breeding ground, similar to a locker room floor of the vermin of the earth. And I'm part of the community, so, I'm insulting myself here at the same time. But they got it in their heads that GameStop somehow was the wrong thing to short. And so a bunch of them decided to go pump the stock up and try to repeat what happened to Volkswagen back in 2008, which is called a short squeeze. And it worked, and it happened exactly like what happened with 2008, except for the fact that people don't understand how a short squeeze like ends. And it always ends with a lot of lay people losing money, significant sums of money, and they're not really hurting the Wall Street people at all. Melvin Capital was the hedge fund that they were going after, and by all accounts, Melvin Capital didn't have any charity or pension money with them. So they were realistically only hurting, quote unquote, the rich, but at the same time, those people are going to get bailed out by the internal Wall Street people because those managers are good at what they do. And those people understand, oh yeah, some people came after a short position of theirs and they just needed to bail out real quick and they'll get their money back. And in 2017, the hedge fund manager for Melvin Capital made $300 million. You think he's going to give a crap if it's going to take him 6 months to find another job as a hedge fund manager? No, you're not hurting these people.
So was it also in 2017 that the GameStop started kind of declining?
Yeah, and so people will be like, well, the hedge fund managers are manipulating the stock, and it's no, they're not really. They're manipulating the stock is a very defined weapon that is used, and short selling something doesn't necessitate manipulation itself. So like if they were to enter in a whole bunch of orders, cancel those orders, re-enter in a whole bunch of orders of how, there's a way to do it. And even I have a hard time explaining it because of the speed that you need to do this at is in milliseconds to truly manipulate a stock all the way through that way and to push it down to the point where you've made money on a short sale. But at the same time, to make money on a short sale, you need to go out and buy the stock to give it back to the people you borrowed it from, which is going to destroy your profits, at that rate anyway. So really what they were banking on is GameStop going out of business. And GameStop has a terrible business model these days. If you play games, you don't go to GameStop to buy them anymore. You get on your console, download them, you go over to Steam, you buy it there, or you go to GOG, or you go to, any of these other services. You don't need to leave your house to get a game anymore.
Right. No, it's funny because we kind of had a discussion about this when we were watching it one night with Mikey. A lot of that business, as far as actually physically going to a store like Best Buy and GameStop and all that stuff, you don't see that anymore. It's too easy to just go ahead and just get it online, like you just said. So
think of what Best Buy used to look like 25 years ago. Imagine the floor of Best Buy. Now imagine it. Now go into one today, and you see how business models change. The CD, you had 42 racks of CDs that filled the entire middle of Best Buy's floor. Then you had the DVD aisles, and then you had all the Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and everything, and computer games making up the vast other majority of others, and appliances and other things like that were a very small, tiny corner of Best Buy.
I was just gonna say, I don't recall. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously now they have appliances, but now it's almost like a huge one corner is like a bunch of appliances. And I'm like, why are they so much in the appliances?
And vacuums and coffee makers and everything else. And Best Buy has gone from a media sales organization to a hardware sales organization where they've almost turned into Office Depot, in a way. You used to, you didn't buy your computer at Best Buy. You bought all the software around it at Best Buy. You bought your computer probably from some mom and pop shop, or you ordered it off Dell and it came shipped. But all that is completely different today. The business models have changed. And when I say certain things that got targeted, so AMC is another stock that got targeted, and the what AMC is selling us is going to be valuable a year from now after this pandemic hopefully gets under control and we're able to go out and enjoy things.
The
AMC
experience of
doesn't
actually
sell us
going.
movies. AMC sells us the experience we want around the movie.
Mhm.
The setup, the sound, the dark, quiet environment where we can focus on the movie and we don't have any other distractions around us, and we can do. AMC is selling us something that we can't get at home.
Mhm.
GameStop is not selling us anything. And the thing that I would compare against GameStop to somebody else who did this is old gaming, tabletop gaming stores that sell, Warhammer figurines and things like that. Well, they provide things that Amazon can't. They provide a place for people to go and meet and play. They provide, an area to learn how to paint the figurines and do a whole bunch of other things. They're selling experiences, which is why people go to these stores and maybe even pay 5-10% higher than they would, say, off Amazon, because there's this experience that comes along with it. Like, I can go to the local tabletop gaming store on Thursday nights, and they have a class on painting your Warhammer figurines, because that's things people like to do, and so that's the experience people want, and that's actually pushed them through COVID. And so
mhm.
the business model for GameStop, what is it going to move to?
Right. It's kind of like how Blockbuster was.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they got phased, and everything else kind of that was below that. So if GameStop was already on a decline, and I in the little kind of wiki research that I did, what I mean, from what I read and based on what you were talking about, but mainly from what I read was that Elon Musk sent out a tweet directing traffic towards this subreddit, and then all of a sudden it just took off from there. So why all of a sudden, just because Elon Musk put out a tweet, was there something that led to people being so hyper focused on this?
Yeah, I think it was that any major short squeeze gets a lot of press, especially from the CNBC group, because you'll see a stock go from 20 to 600, and that always garners attention from the retail investor, and it's something for the pundits to talk about. We live in an era of 24/7 news, which is detrimental to oddities like short squeezes like this happening. Short squeezes are few and far between, and they happen for a reason, and that reason always runs over the average retail investor. It just crushes them. And some moderately wealthy people made out like bandits on this, and they don't care that a whole bunch of people came in and followed them and bought stock at $100 a share and now have lost their shirts on it. That doesn't matter to them. They made their 22 million bucks. They turned their 100,000 into a couple million, and that was just a wealth transfer from the hedge funds to them. But there's also a lot of people that got caught in the crossfire, and so it's irresponsible tweeting, it's irresponsible news, it's irresponsible people on Reddit buying billboards in Times Square, and all these other things that happen that literally could be looked at as market manipulation.
But all this
getting other people to buy the stock, to hope to, all these buy orders from millions of retail investors will push a stock into the position where short sellers start having to close their positions, and then that creates more buying activity, more volume, and then all of a sudden it just pushes them into the short squeeze territory. And it's irresponsible to do because most people don't understand how this thing comes back to earth. And I believe I showed you the Volkswagen, what happened before, during, and after, and everything returns to earth.
But it's all legal, though. Everything that occurred, as far as
all the shorting was legal. There may be some manipulation tactics that the SEC is going to look at with the Wall Street Bets side of things. And as anonymous as they think they are, they aren't.
So who's more mad in this instance? The people that
the people you won't ever hear from, the retail investors that got in at $300 a share that it's now worth 50, and they're wondering how many more years they have to work. You didn't hurt the hedge fund. You didn't hurt the hedge fund managers. You didn't hurt the people that got in early. You hurt the retail investors after. And that's what's infuriating about this type of stuff is it's going to keep garnering attention for the next short squeeze, and a whole bunch of people. This is either nothing's going to happen, which is what I hope, or this is going to start a chain reaction of other people trying to start this BS, and it's going to hurt more and more and more people. And the problem with hedge funds is people think that it's just wealthy people. Hedge fund money, a lot of the time, comes from pensions, charities, schools, scholarship funds, all these things. And I believe in my video, I show a couple like the New York Public Employee Retirement System, CalPERS, which is the California one, IPERS, which is the Iowa one, and NEDPERS, which is the Nebraska one. You can go on and look and see where their money is invested because it's public information. Now, they may not tell you which hedge fund. They may not tell you different things. They'll tell you, oh, like 10% of our entire endowment is within hedge funds. And that is likely all you'll ever know. But that's my point, is this money comes from somewhere. This hedge fund money comes from somewhere, and it's not just these rich people. And there are more videos than I care to admit on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else are like, oh, it's just rich people you're hurting. I'm like, there's going to be some firefighters that are going to get a 10% shave on their retirement checks because of this. Are you happy about that? Nurses that are public employees through the VA system and, all these other things. Think of the people you're hurting and really dig down to understand who you might be, hurting in this whole situation. And it always turns out to be the proletariat. It's never the bourgeoisie. It's never the rich. They don't get hurt.
Wow. I know Stiggs had this question. It's quite interesting. Is that irresponsible, or is the irresponsibility on the part of the people trying to play that don't understand the game?
Playing on other people's ignorance is worse than the ignorance trying to play the game. If like if I were to go out and stir people up and to do this, I would be ethically, I think I would be much more guilty than the other people who tried to play the game and failed, because I knew better. I think ignorance does alleviate some culpability in this for the truly ignorant. There are people out there that knew stirring buying activity was going to hurt so many retail investors that they just don't have the money to afford to lose. And it's terrible. I mean, this was 401k money. This was IRA money that is getting slaughtered. And it's sad.
I know there's been like constant memes about this that I've seen like cropped up, like, oh, we stuck it to the man and all this other stuff. Like now the big money people can cry about losing their millions and we get richer. But that, with you explaining it that way, that doesn't necessarily feel like the case.
And it's not. I hate to say it, but the poor people didn't win in this one, because all the ones that you see where I made this amount of money on it, they had $100,000 to throw away in the first place, where if this didn't work out, they didn't care. These were moderately wealthy people to begin with. And so if they got hurt, it didn't matter. Well, they didn't get hurt. They were on the bleeding edge, which is what you have to. I liken it to MLMs. If you're at the very top, you did very well, and that's the very early adopters. And most people, when it hits the news, it's already too late. So the fact that most of us didn't know it was happening until CNBC or somebody else told us, it was too late. It was already too late.
It's already in motion.
Now you have to go out and find out which is the next, Reddit poster who gets people all riled. Well, there's a reason those stocks are shorted. Those companies are failing or have bad management or something along the lines that makes people, incredibly intelligent people, think that those businesses aren't going to be around for a while.
And it's almost like you have to sit and think like, what's the next failing business?
that a whole bunch of idiots on Reddit are going to try and pump up?
Mhm.
Or what's the failing business that is going to hire the next diamond in the rough manager who turns the business model around?
Right.
If you could tell that, I'm sorry, but you're in the wrong business. Because you need to be a hedge fund, and that's the job of hedge fund managers, is to find that. You're just, these people aren't just greedy bastards who are idiots. These people are incredibly intelligent, and they will take you for a ride, whether you like it or not. Ethically, you can disparage them all day, and I'll be right beside you. But don't try and think that you're smarter than them, because you're not. I'm not.
Well,
That's
I
why
mean,
don't play against them.
it takes a smart person to kind of dumb it down, because now I have a better understanding now that you've kind of explained that experience and the mindset of a person that would go ahead and do this sort of thing. Even explaining it in the mindset of a person that understands what they're doing, but still moves forward anyway at the risk of hurting others.
But they whip people into a frenzy because, if I was a retail investor and all I had was a couple thousand, and people were telling me I could stick it to the man, that's going to emotionally invest me into doing something that I can't afford to do. It's classic marketing techniques that get people to do things that they can't afford to do and consume, and they're consuming stocks. And the part about this is we helped GameStop. No, you didn't. GameStop got none of this. This stock was already issued. It's been traded on the secondary market. It does nothing for them. And what's telling is AMC was able to go out and issue more stock because institutional investors were like, yeah, you sell an experience that people are going to want after this is all over. So yeah, we'll invest with you for, I think that it was like $5 a share. They got $900 million. It's going to carry them through the next 18 months to be able to resume their business practices and their business model post-COVID. What's GameStop's model? If their stock went up to $100, who's going to buy their issuance? Nobody, because they aren't changing their model to match with the times. So GameStop is going to go right back to going bankrupt.
I don't see how they could unless they just converted just being one of those, I don't know.
It's too late. It's too late.
No.
There was a lot of opportunities to branch into different avenues of delivering games, of getting into something like GOG, getting into a software delivery system or a streaming system, PlayStation Now or Shadowplay. There was a lot of opportunities to deliver games the way they're delivering now, and they just never got on top of it. And people would have bought that. If there was a GameStop online digital game store, people would have bought into it. If Blockbuster started doing what Netflix is doing, people would have bought into that because they're the name, right? This is where you go to get games. But they never got into it.
If they could have made a killing on, say, two people wanting to share a game. So if Justin wants to borrow one of the games that I own, they could act as an intermediary for, say, $1, where the license gets transferred over to a friend or whoever for a little while, and then $1 on the way back or whatever, and they could have come up with some DMCA protection where it knows that game is no longer installed with me and I can't play it, but it gets transferred over to somebody who can try it for 2 weeks. They could have played that market so much better than anybody else because they already had the business model to do that, but now it's gone.
Yeah, the digital used games market, it doesn't exist right now because all of the power is with the console manufacturers are kind of controlling who gets to play what games and how many times they get to play it and whether they can share it or not. There's only a couple places like GOG that has DRM free software, DRM free games. So that's where a lot of people are going through them. That's run through CD Projekt Red. So they could have got in on that and made their own proprietary DRM that basically created a digital use game sales market, but they didn't bother getting into anything digital. I haven't seen them get into anything software related.
Mm-mm. No, I had a question about that too, because now that I think about it, I don't have a console or anything, but when I do notice when certain games come out, they're only specific for either Xbox One or PlayStation. They never come out with both or all consoles. So that's on purpose.
Well,
Mhm.
so it depends, right? Because most games are for all the consoles,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the big name ones,
There's your
they
headline exclusives.
yeah, they're exclusive. They're how you sell consoles. Sony or Microsoft will pay to have an exclusive title for a year or whatever time frame they come up with on their platform, and so they can
To
sell
mm,
consoles.
that
or
makes
or even permanently, like Halo. If you're a Halo fan, you have to buy an Xbox.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah, there are some brands that are associated with the console or the parent company that are just never going to migrate
The
to other
Souls games
platforms.
are PlayStation games. You know,
mm,
the Bloodborne and the Dark Souls and the Demon Souls. Halo is Xbox. You just they're so intertwined now that when you think of one, you think of the other.
Yeah, like
mm.
like Zelda with Nintendo
Nintendo,
and
yeah, and
Mario.
Mario
Yeah,
Brothers, and
yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, you get involved in this ecosystem. Like if you're a family or platformer, you're gonna get your Nintendo games. But if you're into games like Souls, like these really hard action hack and slash games, and PlayStation's your route. But and then there's some that kind of go beyond that, like first person shooters are across the board, PC and console.
yes, Minesweeper in Windows. Yes, Kentro. Yes.
Oh, that's not Stitix?
I, you know what? Freaking Stitix. Yeah, that would be Stitix would say that. I'm surprised, but he said that right after we mentioned it. Good
Yeah,
call.
yeah. Windows had that pinball exclusive back
Yeah,
in the day.
yeah.
Spaceball, man, that was awesome.
Oh, that was awesome. Spacewalks. Yeah.
Always uninstalled on every work computer. Damn it.
Wasn't it though? School computer too. Dang it. Um,
Oh
no,
my god!
Stitix. No, please,
Don't do
no,
it.
don't do it. Behave, Stitix.
I
Why did we give him a wrench?
feel like there's a
Anyway,
history here that I need to know about.
Sti- Stitix
It's
is our
like a
boss.
it's
That's
like a 3D
yeah,
Minesweeper that he plays.
Oh,
yeah. He's addicted to it like crack. We love Stitix. Thank you. No, wow, that's interesting. So that makes sense. They have this type of conglomerate or ownership of certain games that only come out with certain consoles. And it boggled me why I mean, I've noticed it, but I never took into account what that meant. I just thought it was just because, oh, they can't convert it to that one. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you can't convert it. My simple understanding. But okay, that makes sense.
yeah. Porting is usually only mostly ineffective when the consoles try to port to a PC,
Mm,
or vice versa, because of the controller differences. That
okay.
mouse keyboard doesn't really translate to the handheld controller all that
Hmm.
well. Dark Souls initially, you had to have a controller on your computer to be able to play it at all, and nowadays you can kind of play with a mouse and keyboard, but you still have to have a controller on your computer to be able to play it appropriately.
What games do you play, Swede?
I play map staring games. So Europa Universalis 4, Victoria 2, Hearts of Iron 3, because I hate Hearts of Iron 4 because it sucks.
You sound like me.
Crusader Kings, that type of thing. Very alternative history oriented. And then I also play the 7 Days to Die with my friends. So zombie survival, fortress building, all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's when I have time with 2 toddlers and job and wife and everything else. It's
Oh, you sound like
few
Justin.
and far between.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that.
No, you sure wouldn't.
Yeah, Justin doesn't have a life.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
I thought that was a picture of her back in the background. No.
Oh. Kylo. Interesting. Okay. Wait. Anyone on what is that? What game is that?
Star Wars.
Star Wars: The Old Republic. I
Oh.
used to a long time ago. I played WoW from closed beta clear till the end of Cataclysm, and then I got tired of it right before the Panda expansion happened. Yeah, I had to carry. I was going to sell my character off because I reserved the name Pandemonium because I thought that would be hot when Miss of Pandaria came out. It was not, so I just quit.
What?
This is why you're not a hedge fund manager.
Why? What's Mastermind? Is that the other one was a Windows game that he's
No,
obsessed
that's the
with?
one that. Yeah, stop. Get it off.
God damn it, Stidix. Yeah. He's a cool dude. He's funny. Well.
And now that the NCAA football games are coming back, I will likely buy a console just to play that.
Oh, okay.
I bought my PS4 just to play Final Fantasy 15. And then I have that and Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That's the only games that I've beaten so far
It's
for
15
it.
the boy band.
Yeah. Yep. So now I'm just waiting, I guess, for a game to come out to buy, the PS5.
Noctis and his boy band companions.
Yeah.
I heard it was good. It was just people were always, labeling it the boy band.
It was good. It was different. I didn't like the fighting. The fighting was like too hack and slash. It was too easy to button mash your way through it, and the summons were kind of part of the story, so you can only use them at certain times, and they were like a scene.
Like Final Fantasy VIII was just a summons game.
Yeah, and you're mashing square to get a boost on a summon for like 3/4 of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, if you leveled up your summons all the way, you could just basically use them every fight all the way through the rest of the game.
Well, on 10, once you broke the damage barriers, you just do that the whole game too. But, if you have unlimited time, all the games you can
out-level them. Yeah.
Phrasing enter.
That's
Do you like pegging? Oh my god.
Who knows? Maybe he does. I mean, I don't kink shame.
We won't judge.
We don't judge.
We don't kink shame here.
No, not at all.
My favorite is retail workers who know the kinks but don't understand retail terms getting asked questions from their manager and seeing the look on their face. So like edging and pegging mean something in the retail world that obviously means something else entirely.
I used to work in retail and I've never heard that, so I don't know what kind of nonsense that is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, usually we kind of.
Jur, we know that one autocorrect.
It wasn't. No, she knows what she did, and it was smart and hilarious. Usually we wrap up around like the 45-hour mark because this guy needs to try and sleep.
45 hours.
45 hours.
45
minutes. 44 more to go.
No, we don't have a 45-minute warning. That's only on Neil's show.
We started the countdown timer at the beginning was the 45-minute warning.
That's no lie. I want to follow up with this and then we'll kind of wrap up here. But you, with your channel, and of course I have all the links in the description and we're gonna blast you forever. Why did you start, making videos on YouTube? You say you did it towards the end of last year?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with what happened a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of misinformation Mostly it happened because of the election and what politicians and pundits say that is just so blatantly wrong that it hurts my ears. My favorite example is when they say XY, so and so is in favor of cutting XYZ program. They voted to cut a program, or they voted to cut funding. What they actually mean is they cut the growth of, like, if the program is supposed to be $1 billion and then it was supposed to be 1.1 billion the next year, what they mean by a cut is it'll only be 1.05 billion next year. They're cutting the growth, how fast a program is growing in its spending outlay, not actually cutting the underlying funding itself. 99% of the time, that's what they mean. Government programs very ever get cut. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program.
So
going through like misnomers, economic misnomers, things that politicians say that are just blatantly just out there to, play on your emotions. I'm going to get into more, say, class consciousness type stuff, starting up here pretty soon, helping people understand that unless you own a couple factories and a mine and a whole bunch of property, you're not a capitalist class. You're actually in the proletariat. And there's a lot of people between 75 and say $500,000 a year that just don't understand that. That the anger towards the classism is not at them. It's towards Elon Musk, and it's towards Jeff Bezos, and it's towards a very small group of people who wield so much power that it's insane.
how funny is it that
But-
he shifts from being? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the classism should be angered towards them, but those people are inaccessible. The people that are accessible to scream at and point your arrows at are the people making upper middle class money.
Yeah,
They're the ones that are still in the neighborhood, still in the communities. The people that you're talking to are living off on another planet.
well, yeah, and I'm going to get into more educational content of how we can actually over time actually get to those people, and specifically, I'm an anarcho-syndicalist, and so it's organizing labor through unions, and then working towards a what we call in our lingo called the general strike, where we're all like, look, Amazon, if Jeff Bezos fell off the earth tomorrow, Amazon would go on just fine. If everyone at Amazon decided, except for Jeff Bezos, to not show up tomorrow, it would collapse. And it's organizing labor into getting certain groups of people to understand who actually creates value in this world.
Yeah, it's like when Steve Jobs died.
Apple went on. Apple will continue to go on as long as somebody doesn't drive it in the ground. And it's the people that work at Apple and labor and create that value. And it's high time that people understand that, oh, I should have a piece of this business as an ownership stake because I work here, because I'm actually creating the value behind everything that is here on top of my salary. My salary isn't enough. And we have socialist institutions in the United States that we can model this after. They're called farmers cooperatives and telephone cooperatives and rural electric cooperatives. And these exist, and these are models that we can use, that where the employees and the customers, and credit unions are another one that are a socialist institution that we can model things after, to show that you don't have to have the old way of thinking anymore. And I guess one of my favorite phrases is people that say, well, capitalism's done a whole bunch of things, we can't get rid of it. And I go, you sound just like a feudal lord in 1200 arguing for feudalism. Oh, it's gotten us this far. Why should we give it up? Well, the next progression of things says, and I have a whole bunch of studies that I publish, or I didn't publish, that I put out that show how capitalism currently has reached kind of its peak of ingenuity, and it's actually suppressing ingenuity now.
We had a talk a couple months back about automation and job loss in general. So I work in automation, and I can see firsthand in real time the effects that it has on jobs. So I work specifically in smart building technology. So
It's specifically good paying jobs.
yeah. So I work in smart building technologies, doing integration, controls, automation for fire security, HVAC, and remote monitoring, scheduling, programming, basically anything that can be remotely monitored and remotely controlled. We integrate it and program it. So now where buildings would have or a whole campus might have had 30 operators, now they have 5 and a controls operator. Um, Now your engineers and executives can see in real time how much this building is costing them and make changes um, and bring that up.
And that's both good and bad. It's good that we have the productivity multiplier, but it's not coming down to where those 30 people could actually share a job and only work 3 or 4 hours a week and have so much more time on their hands to be able to create or have hobbies or to spend times with their family. You know, that they're being forced to go work 60 hours a week at a job that is emotionally draining to them.
Yeah, so these operator jobs are always 80 to 100 grand a year. Well, 70 to 80 grand base plus OT. They make good money, but when one leaves or retires, they don't replace them. Um, they just keep shrinking and shrinking, and then they force the people that are still there to pick up more and more responsibility. And they're all running every facility that we work in are running skeleton crews, and they're just leaving equipment broken in unsafe conditions. And they do a quick cost benefit analysis when they find something that needs to be fixed, and they go, well, we don't have the manpower, we don't like how much it's going to cost us this quarter, so it's just going to stay that way until we magically find more money to replace it.
God,
And they never do. They never do.
And it stays that way for years.
Yeah. And instead of employing a whole bunch of people to do a little bit of work and free them up to do a whole bunch of other things and be innovative or do something creative, create art or whatever, we have a whole bunch of people working 80 hours a week to try and replace the job they lost due to
Or
automation.
even just give quality to the damn work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I work in areas that have the money. That's why most of our work comes from institutions that have so much money that they're required to offload it and spend it on something. So they're government buildings, public institutions, and hospitals that they have so much money they have to justify um, continuing to make that much money. So they spend it on building stuff. They just keep expanding forever.
Oh my God, that sounds like my job.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be I mean, nursing will be partially automated at some point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that even with surgeons and things like that, because I've seen the technology, I've seen what they've done. I've worked
But
side
the
by
problem
side
is
with
we aren't
that.
going to use it as a force multiplier for everyone that is currently employed as a nurse to solve the problem of overworked nursing.
No.
We're going to use it to let go of people and save cost on that so that the hotel operators can go pay themselves more.
Right. And the difference is there, as far as not just being overcome with automation for nursing, at least what I have seen, even in my own department, we're shrinking more and more and more. And the management and the type of level or position that you need to hold as far as getting that management position or department head position or sub department head position, you no longer have to have this higher level of nursing qualification. Now, oh, we just need someone that has that basic supervisor thing because I mean, that's management. They can run a team. That's experience. But when you have a business background person that may have had some computer whatever background to run whatever system, and then you put them in the healthcare department, and they're supposed to be manager over a nursing team. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. For one, they don't understand your job or the workflow or what the fuck you are really realistically can do under your scope of practice, because they'll be damned if they even care about you losing your license when they're trying to force you to do something, one. And two, they want to they don't hear what that staff is telling them. They only worry about what that other upper manager person wants for them to do,
Hmm.
despite the fact that you have very little staff to coordinate all of the increase and changes, especially now, that you want to implement.
Yeah, but I go back to my hospital experience of being stuck in there for 5 days during COVID, which meant no family, no visitors, no nothing. And the nurses couldn't spend any time with me other than to drop the pills off, make sure I took them and go,
Mm-mm.
and to fill out the charts and other things. And, imagine that a little machine came in, delivered it, and the nurse was actually able to come in and sit down and talk with me for 5 minutes and make my experience in the hospital a little bit less lonely.
Mhm.
I know like FaceTime and stuff like that helps, but
Nothing
ain't
beats
nothing like human contact.
Exactly. Nothing beats a good bedside manner, and good on that nurse for at least attempting that much. And I realize how tough it is to try and do that, and the struggle to,
And
because
some were
even,
better than others, obviously, but it
yeah.
was that experience of a couple nurses being wanting to sit with me and talk with me for a bit.
Hmm. That's important.
Yep.
That's important. That can serve the progress of you coming out of recovery faster than losing that disconnect, because you already can't have your family to stay with you or sleep with you overnight because of the restrictions. And it pains me, what I do for work, because now that I have such an increase or a big hold of a a patient portfolio of getting people enrolled into different classes and scheduling surgeries or holding them off from surgeries, because I work in the elective portion of it. It's difficult, even more difficult when I have this bigger list of patients that I have to order labs and review. I can't individualistically identify who is who and actually give them extra quality or extra time or educate them even further than I used to, because management's telling me, oh, we have this, big referral list to just roll people in. Like, okay, we're going to add more people into this class. We're going to add more people. I'm like, we don't have the capacity for surgeons to follow through. And you get a lot of people lost in the mix because they're like, well, I don't know what to do. No one told me. But we have to shoot off emails, or we can't spend enough time with them over the phone. It's various things to where you're pushing out all this information and you're losing out all of the quality in the care. And that is worse. You're doing more harm in educating someone or helping them through the motions or providing for their sake by doing that.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm on a rant. I've been
Yeah.
passionate
Well,
for
no,
a
and it's
while.
like
But
it's
yeah.
there are a lot of industries that face the same problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And healthcare is one where it's much more evident than others, but there's
Every job, I mean, probably not every job, but every job that I worked on had the same issue.
Yeah.
so to one end or another, the customer always loses.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
patient always loses. I mean, it's
Yep.
hard for you to be an advocate for yourself if your nurse runs in and runs out. you know, and most people in the hospital don't like buzzing the nursing station. They just don't. And because a lot of the times when they answer, they sound like, "What the hell do you want?"
Yeah. They're fucking annoyed, or they took longer to get to you. Yeah.
And so you're like, "No, I guess my pain's fine. See you later."
Yep. When I was a field service tech at AT&T for almost 4 years, and when I started, there was 10 people per one manager, and then by the time I left, there was over 20 people for each manager.
Oh no.
They fired all the managers, and then they fired a bunch of people too. But it got to the point where they started missing their safety inspection, safety checks. There was never any one-on-one, never any training, never any, hey, how are you doing? It was basically the only interaction we had with anybody for the most part was when they were out trying to find something for trouble, because their boss was saying, hey, you need to do these inspections and find something they did wrong. And then these big corporate surveys that, they tell you that they read and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but, and then on top of that, your metric requirements keep going up. So how much work you're supposed to get accomplished per day, how many jobs you're supposed to do, how much time and materials you're supposed to spend on each job. And all that just keeps getting harder and harder and harder to where you're encouraged to cut corners and take shortcuts and or not deliver a quality service because you simply don't have the time for it. And any pushback just goes, well, my hands are tied as well. Um,
Yeah.
so it's every and it's you, your manager, the second line manager, and probably even the third line manager are all in this predicament to where they have to deliver these numbers or they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes all the way up to the top at that point. But once you get up there, these people have no concept whatsoever of what's happening on the first and second level. Like your boss is probably the last person in your chain of command that has any clue of what you even do.
Yeah.
The
Well,
rest of it is quarterly numbers and safety data and management level stuff.
I find that as a manager myself of a team, that like as much as the military gets a bad rap, that they at least give their order of battle a sense of autonomy. Like if you're under fire, you do what you need to do. You don't need to call up to the general to clear something. It's you use your best judgment, and unless you do something horribly wrong and get your entire team killed, in the military, you're usually not going to get busted, or you're not going to get in too much of trouble for the decisions you make under that line of fire. So if corporations were to find that they're give autonomy at least to their lower line managers who actually understand what the people at the very bottom do and can help them, you might find a much better work environment.
No,
Hmm.
but instead they get an email saying they did a great job for doing the thing they did. They get a pat in the back, they get a luncheon, and then they get fired because now they're a liability.
Wow.
They go, we really like your work, and we'll put in a referral for you, but we just can't take the risk for this thing that they did that was outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Well, and I've always asked, I go, give me a budget for $5,000 where I can give bonuses for random things. Just think about that. As one of your workers does something really good, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to write them a $500 check for something that they did?
Think,
Or they
think,
selfishly do have that bonus and they keep it for themselves because they save so much money for the department.
Well, that's why you have it in the budget, and you basically can only go. Yeah, I mean, you can create regulations around it where it can only go to the people below the manager, but it's
And we have this whole kind of union management partnership where annually we're supposed to review the budget. We haven't reviewed that budget yet.
yeah. Well,
I'm
and
sorry.
unions that are too tied with corporate are bad.
Yes.
You and Mikey and others have brought to everyone's attention that a partnership between union and corporate is bad. They have to be in conflict with each other.
Yeah, it's rough.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, unions are complicated because I was at AT&T, I was in the CWA, and at face value, it seems very helpful. Like, look, unions got us to where we are with wages. They're very helpful, but
Hmm.
that particular union, they've gotten to the point where they're a 700,000 member union, but effectively they're only a couple hundred members or a couple thousand members because they're all split in the districts, they're all split in the halls, and the contracts say you can't strike at the same time, you can't strike when you're in contract. They ratify contracts right before the next one expires.
Yeah.
And then there's different sections inside your contracts where one group of people has a really great benefits and pay and a good package, and then the other groups under the same union contract are not well represented, and they don't have good union stewards, the pay, the benefits, none of that stuff is even remotely close. So you don't have representation at the table, and then the people that have been there for a long time that have worked with the corporation for many, many years, they go in and shake hands and say, we're doing the same thing we did last time, sounds good. And the new people that are joining, or certain other departments, they're letting them decline without getting that same level of support and guaranteed jobs or protections.
Hmm.
So the union is, um, it might hurt like a small area for a small amount of time, but
Yeah.
they've intentionally weakened themselves, just to have some sort of like a middle class, comfortable life for some subgroup of people within it.
It's a balance. It's a balance where it works with you and it works against you. And
Yeah,
it can
well,
be at
and
times very helpful and not.
that's why I say, getting chummy with the corporation itself and from a union perspective is negative always.
It's not so much, it's not chummy. It's just, we come to the table and we have to be open and lay out what is there. But obviously the corporate side, they string you along as long as possible, or oh, I didn't get that email, or whatever bullshit excuse.
So but you have a big union, right? And then you have a bargaining board for that union.
I do.
But who do you know who is on that bargaining board? And are they in any sort of contact with the union members between during the active contracts before it's time to ratify a new one? Because I mean, they're supposed to put out the contracts for general votes and stuff, but they have to be in contact. You have to send out newsletters and update the websites and say, this is where we're going to be going for the next time, or this is the changes we want to see. But for the most part, nobody sees any of that. Then all your union dues pays for, their trip, breakfast,
Yeah.
lunch, and dinner for 5 days to go sit at a table with the corporate side doing the same thing,
Right.
maintaining the status quo on the next contract.
I don't know. Besides the people that actually pay into the union dues, I always get text messages, I always get emails about whatever is happening. I'd be damned if my managers even pay attention or even if get that information, because
Well,
they
they
have
might not be in
Mhm.
the union, are they?
No, they're not unionized, but
Mm-hmm.
but they are required to stay updated and know, since they are head of so many people that have various unions, because it's not just mine. There's like 4 different unions under just my department alone, because we have so many different medical providers. They're supposed to know and ask their questions and clarify things with union directly. But a lot of the times they just turn around and talk to HR, which is just another side of corporate.
Well, I mean, they don't know what your contract says, and the people in the union don't know what the contract says. I mean, you should have a little handbook that you reference, but
I
most
do.
people don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
They wait until something happens that they don't like, and then they defer to a union steward.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the meantime, there could be lots of things that are not in line with what your contracts are saying.
Oh,
All right, I'm about done.
I love the rant. Thank you. That was fun. Usually after this, we do a little after show. So if you want to stick around, we'll be in the IF Discord. We usually do it there. So, Swede, you're welcome to kind of chit chat. I'm sure maybe Stidix has a question or two for you. He's a bit of a chatterbox. But of course, thank you for coming on. Of course, if in any point in time from now until I don't know, in the future after this, if you want to come back, we're here. I can always shoot you a StreamYard, and you're welcome to just sit in to whatever the fuck we're talking about. So, but for all of you, thank you, audience, for listening and joining us and meeting Irish Swede, Sweet Irish. Please follow him. That is his Twitter at Sweet Irish. God damn it. Just why can't your name just be the same?
Because I signed up as Irish Swede, and that's what it made my Twitter handle.
Yeah,
It
Twitter
made
is
it.
complicated.
It
Twitter
is.
Twitter's
naming
very
conventions.
complicated, especially if you like do math.
This is
Mhm.
why I don't. This is why I don't have a Twitter. And of course, you know, he has Marfans. So donate. I donated. It's a good cause, you know. The research that goes behind it, it
Yeah, there
puts
is no cure. Yeah.
right. This is an incurable syndrome, folks. He is living with this. He's ailing. Look at him. He's suffering right now. Um,
It's helping people find the doctors, find the resources they need,
exactly.
find the ophthalmologist, finding the back surgeons, finding, you know, all these different people, help with their children, because 75% of all cases are descendants of those that have Marfans, much like my youngest son. So there's, you know, finding these resources, especially in rural areas where there may not be as much accessibility to great world leading physicians like I have here in Omaha. But you know, people need to find for good. Be your own. You know, we need to help people be their own advocate.
Yes, exactly. And I know the John Ritter Foundation does the same in helping paying for certain financial issues with people with Marfan syndrome. So please check out both of the websites. They are in the description down below. Do your best to just contribute and be aware. You know, I certainly was educated on this, so that was good for me to know. So thank you for that, Irish Swede. You know, right now, Recovering from Religion's doing their own little donation right now, so of course we support them as well. So just go directly to the website recoveringfromreligion.org to give them some support. Of course, we will be in the Discord right after this for a little bit, so you may catch Irish Swede if you want to pop in and ask him a question. Crossing my fingers, we're finally gonna have Cynthia on next week, and we're gonna talk about something I'm very excited about, but I might cry about it too. So stay tuned for that. So,
Listen,
hmm?
listen.
Cynthia McDonald next Thursday, same time, same place. We're gonna have a good discussion. Justin's just as excited, right, Justin? Oh, I love your enthusiasm, bestie. Love it. It's addicting. And you can find Justin at where, Justin?
Here.
Facebook.com/Skeptech, where he posts all the memes and all the beautiful information. As I often, or I haven't said it often, I said it one time. I've said it one time that I'm the face, Justin is the brain, which is so true. So you can find me at facebook.com/Black Female Atheist. And of course, just go ahead and pop in the Discord. We'll jump into there now. Thank you, Irish Swede. Come back again. Russ Burton, of course, thank you for being here as well, aka Ramlin Malik, apparently, through Aunt Jur.
Liar.
Yeah.
A side job.
Stidix, you're a lie. Okay. Bye, everyone.